And live from Brussels and Madrid, it's ZN Live.
And
Live.
live.
And today we're very excited to have our special guest, Carlos, who is in the streets of Madrid driving around. We also have Marcela,
Not driving, not
who
driving.
is in Belgium. Sorry, he's not driving around. Somebody else is driving, but he's in a car. And we have Jesus. So very, very happy to have all of you. And of course, all of you played a critical role in the EU influencer event that just took place on Tuesday at Spirito. The whole internet has been talking about it. It's been really fantastic. We had massive buzz, over 100,000, now 108,000 impressions on our main ranking tweet, or should I say X, or I don't know, post. TikTok is talking about ZN. We have press coverage, and we've been called by Politico the OJ of digital consultancies, which I feel is going to be a t-shirt and a cap. So I'm very excited about that. Now, Carlos, you have been working with us for over 10 years, kind of. You have your own company, you're an entrepreneur, you have a network of researchers, and one of the things you've been doing for 7 years is working on the ranking of the digital EU influencers. So, Carlos, how was it this year? Was it more difficult than usual? Was it straightforward? How did you feel about the exercise?
Well, I guess that the most difficult year was the first, when we had to think about all the algorithm, how to organize the ranking. But this year we had a new challenge that was to integrate other channels as well, to start looking at other channels as part of the conversation. So we had to look at the old way of doing, plus different how the different channels were also around.
Yeah, now the basic thing was that a lot of people were thinking about the future of X, Twitter, and whether it still mattered. That was a big conversation topic. Now you took a look at X in terms of the conversations on Twitter that concerned the bubble, and I think the question was, is it still happening? What's the intensity? What's the engagement? So what did you find out when you looked at that? What did you look at, and what did you learn?
So what we mainly look at, it was we all know that some people are leaving X, but we look at the really main stakeholders. We look at the MEPs, commissioners, some of the influencers, and we saw that the conversation is not actually going down statistically in a relevant way. So this might happen in the near future. Actually, we are seeing that LinkedIn was usually not a channel that was known for driving conversation, and now we already see conversation going on in some aspects. But then the MEPs and commissioners, they are still there, and they are still making conversation, and the reach is still high. So if this happens, decrease of intensity on X will still take some time.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting and very important point, because a lot of people are looking at high-profile discussions of people saying, "Oh, I quit the platform," and what we're not seeing is actually an exodus of people leaving the platform. I think what we're seeing is people being very frustrated with the platform, quite angry at Elon Musk, but actually staying. And one of the things I was thinking about is that, we know that Rupert Murdoch owns hundreds of different TV channels and newspapers, and it doesn't mean, even if you don't agree with his politics and his business approach, that you stop using these platforms to communicate, to advertise, because they are a place where the public discourse takes place. So I think, in my mind, it's very important not to be confused between the media story and the big high profile story and what's happening on the ground. The conversation is still largely taking place on X, even if other platforms are gaining more traction. What do you think about that?
Um, I think well, I had one professor in literature that said writers had to die right after writing the book, because then we just write the book and we look at the book as a side from the writer, because the writer can make bad things in the future. And this is the case for Elon Musk. The platform is great, we all like it, but nowadays it's difficult to to put aside the product from the person. Like now we see a lot of great actors, great artists, great sport people that make something that is not according to the values that we have, and they get backlash, and they might get out of the product might just stop selling itself or lose contracts. This is the where we live today, and this is the problem that is happening now. It's not because of the well, but because of we like using things that we kind of match with. So if Elon Musk were, let's say, Putin, who wants to use X?
Yeah, and I think we're also forgetting that, just a few years ago, we had a similar experience with Mark Zuckerberg and with Facebook. People were saying, the election was hacked because of Facebook, and very kind of uncomfortable. But the reality is that the platform is still very much there. It's changed in many ways, but fundamentally, it's still the social platform where people connect. And people have kind of gotten over now, by contrast to Elon Musk. Mark Zuckerberg actually looks kind of reasonable and calm. Now, in terms of where we're heading with this, I mean, I think that we still have to basically, use X as a starting point, because when we don't, according to the data, it's still fundamental. But I can see that LinkedIn is really much more important than before. It needs to be part of the conversation, and Mastodon, Blue Sky are kind of question marks. Yes, maybe on specific topics with specific people. What are your thoughts on where we're going to in the next 6 months? Because that will be basically heading into the European election. So, what do you think might change, or what should we look out for in those coming months?
Well, I mean, as I said before, the data, doesn't show really big impact in the last year. I mean, in these high profiles, I wouldn't change much in this at 6 months time to the elections if I were them. There is also an expression saying that uh, in times of a storm, do not move out of your house. So if there is something really big going on and you have problems, just keep it as it is. I don't think that is going to be for these elections. Maybe for next elections we will see another platform arising, more conversation on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, I think now can take the potential. There was an entrepreneur, Australian entrepreneur, that said made some comments, beginning of the week. Tim, I don't remember the name, but he was saying that people now doesn't like to work anymore, and what we need is to create huge unemployment. And he got, of course, backlash a lot. And I've read that this backlash was on Twitter and LinkedIn. So this was not happening 5 years ago. People was not like really commenting on LinkedIn and making conversation. But now it looks like there is a space for LinkedIn there. And this might be happening more and more. But I don't think that is going to be, well, for the next 6 months. Talking about these high profiles at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think that for now we need to have a strategy that's based around based around X with other channels. I agree with your metaphor. I don't think you should move houses during the storm, but you should probably start digging trenches and preparing for something that might happen. We have a comment from Justin saying, as much as we hate being on Twitter X, it's just so hard to leave a platform just to set up shop on another. I wonder if social media platform migration fatigue is a thing with all the new platforms sprouting up. I agree. I think that, we've seen with John, the price you pay when you leave your followers and the fact that you have to rebuild a new presence. I would suggest that the pragmatic answer is that you have to keep all your channels open and follow the conversation where you get the most traction, but you cannot kind of shut down something without making sure that you have an alternative. We have another post from LinkedIn, you saying, hi from New York, congrats on the event, look fab. Hyper moderation by M, please share the political link. So thank you for that. Now, the other thing I want to go to is Marcela, you were basically behind the scenes pulling all the different things together for this event, because this kind of event requires a lot of preparation, a lot of organization, and especially with a ZN event and the EU Influence event, it's not just in the room, but it's online and it's on social media. So Marcela, one of the things we talk about a lot is how to think of an event as a before, during, and after process. So how did you approach that, and what did you learn from this experience?
Hi, everyone. It's true, Phil, that a lot of organization did go into making this event the success that it was. And of course, this is also thanks to the incredible team that worked on this and made it happen. But as we do with our clients, of course, we also applied the methodology of before, during, and after. And there were a lot of moving blocks. For the before preparation, we actually started working on all of the communication and the build-up to it, including email outreach, not just to invite people to register and to attend the event, but also to raise awareness on all of the crucial topics that would actually be discussed. And of course, this hot conversation on the changing communication landscape. We created a consistent social media content plan, which included both organic and paid campaigns throughout the whole summer, with higher intensity in the weeks building up to the event. And this was also reflected in our LinkedIn newsletter and the ZN Live show. All of our posts that were distributed and adapted to the different social media channels, with teasers, with announcements. We build up our PR strategy and also the outreach to the media and journalists. So, of course, there was a lot going on. And in the meantime, we were also working on the ranking, which was quite different from previous years. As Carlos explained, there was extensive research and analysis actually involved into the conception of the ranking. But we were also, of course, working on the event flow, identifying the panelists, reaching out, briefing them, the post-production and the design of all of the elements that made the event, what it was, and also so interactive. We worked on a lot of videos, physical assets. The team adjusted the virtual gallery on Space Show. We created a survey, the digital trends survey. And we prepared all of the content that was published during the event to help activate it. And on the day itself, of course, there was a whole big team involved and assigned to all of the key roles, from tech to streaming, catering, activation, video, show flow design. So there were a lot of things that we needed to keep in mind and to monitor, to be on top of, to make sure that everything ran smoothly, of course. At Spirito, but not only there, also online for the audience that joined the live stream. I do think that there's something important to note here, because I see it with a lot of clients and prospects. The after event segment is often overlooked, and people only think about it as soon as the event is over. But what we recommend at ZN to all of our clients, of course, is to start working on the after event preparation already before the event itself. So in our example, already in the weeks before the 12th of September, we prepared, our press releases, the ranking and the methodology articles. already, started drafting the overview article, which was launched yesterday, and I'll get to that later on as well, with key event highlights, recommendations for our clients who are all, asking the question, should they stay? Should they go on X? What do they do in these uncertain times? So, we made sure that all of that is in production and ready to, go out as soon as the event was over so that we can continue maintaining momentum. And now, of course, we've gathered a lot of great content from the event. We had 2 video interview stations at Spirito. So all of the interviews that we did with EU influencers, with clients, with the network, we're now going to start working on post-producing them, seeing how they fit into our communication plan, taking snippets out of them and rolling them out in the coming weeks and months, and adjusting them in different formats, because a video is not just a video. You can, do a article from it. You can do super quotes from it. You can do a lot of different things. And we are really strong believers in the Gary V content model. So we will be applying this very religiously in our post-event activation plan.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things, probably the most difficult thing, is to think about what happens after, before. And I think the issue there is that basically when you're doing the event, you tend to focus on that deadline. And you think, I hope that everything goes well, that the streaming works, that the logistics fall in place. But then all your organizational energy goes into this. And I think what we're doing, and we it's a process which we get better at every time, is to make sure that the next day and the next week and the next month is really part of the plan. And I think the conversation that happens online at the end of the day is probably the most important one. It's, yes, you have a couple of hundred people in the room, they have a great time, it's really nice. But if you don't have the online amplification and conversation, then that becomes a much more limited impact for a significant investment, because you spend a lot of time, money in building it up. So I think it's really thinking about that from the beginning that's really key. And I want to come back to you in a second, but I first want to jump to Jesus, because Jesus was the man behind the big buttons with all the screens. And actually, I mean, this was really fun. We wanted to stream this time, and we wanted to make sure we had enough footage so that people online could experience something that gave them a sense of the room, not just a fixed camera, but actually something more dynamic. And then we wanted to link it to a lot of video material to make the transition smooth. So Jesus, how did it work out for you, and how was the vision that you had for it compared to what came out in the end? You're on mute.
For me, what I was thinking at the moment that we started with the project was the fact that before the pandemic, I remember there were kind of events where we were bringing the event online, but it was still done in a way that you could say, okay, not as many resources that it could be a live TV show, for example. But now I see that after the pandemic, those things are getting lost the boundaries, okay? And events that not necessarily have to be really big, suddenly you have all the resources that can permit to create a very good live broadcast of the event. And I think in this case, we wanted to bring that experience online. The fact that actually we were playing with different cameras, everything was live. So there were like a series of videos that were there pre-established, but we were trying to bring an event that was happening at the same time that was being broadcasted. So that's obviously there are a lot of risks behind that, but we had a lot of preparation before, a team that is used to do that. Again, it's not a live TV show where there are resources and teams and all that at that level, but at the end the result was quite near to that, because nowadays on internet you can go to broadcasts that are in quite high level. So it was always, I mean, the more that you do, the better it is, and the more prepared you are for the unknown, and for the possible situations. But so then there is always a bit of little feelings of stress and all that before starting. But as soon as it starts, you see that things are going smooth and all that, and you feel very good when it's done. So it was great. Always, if there is a good team behind that, things goes well, and with a lot of preparation beforehand, things work properly. So,
Yeah, and I think the key is to prepare the right things, and that's quite difficult. And I think we've seen this over the past few years when people wanted to do more live, more hybrid. It's like there are certain things in hybrid that are not great, and certain
Mhm.
things that are good. And we've been trying actually for the last 3 years to do a lot of. We started with a full online live in 2020. We had a lot of little technical issues with the stream dropping and things like that, with people coming in and having problems. So I think what was interesting here is that we were streaming, but actually everyone was in the room. What we did not do is to take people and connect live, because I think that seems to add a level of difficulty. But at the same time, we had a lot of video material that was played live and in the room, which I think made the experience more professional. The other thing we did is to play with AI content, which also made, I think, the look and feel of the event special.
Yeah.
I want to go back to you, Marcela, for 1 second, because the big topic we were discussing, and a lot of clients were there to try to think to figure out about the future. So, what do you think is the takeaway from our clients of how they can adapt to the challenges they're facing, this moment of change because of X, because of the election? What was your takeaway, or what you think the clients took away from this?
Yeah. Well, I think as we heard from our panelists on the future of social media, it's fair to say that the communication landscape is in a state of flux and that there will be radical changes on the horizon. So for me, the biggest takeaway, I think, and also one of the recommendations I've been consistently making to my clients, is that you shouldn't invest all of your efforts into a single platform, even if X is still kind of the dominant one where all of the EU discussions are still taking place on. But with the uncertain times that we're living in, I think what's important is that you always continuously research and analyze where the conversation is happening. Is your target audience still on the platform that you're targeting them on? Are they partially there and maybe some have migrated to others like LinkedIn or Mastodon or anything else? And then see how you can diversify your strategy. So for me, that's really key. And that's what I've been advising also my clients. But it's not just about social media. It's also thinking about, improving your website, exploring email campaigns, SEO or SEM, and also other means of advertising like Google Ads or traditional media. But what's really important is to make sure that, everything comes together for your specific strategy and is aligned with your goals. So it's not that, this is a solution that fits everyone. It needs to be tailored. So that's why I think it's important that a lot of the discussions are happening now to make sure that clients are prepared for the next 6 months, also because of the critical timing that we're living in.
Yeah, and I think we need that kind of still core content around X, because as we're saying, that's where it happens. But then that content strategy can then be already exported onto LinkedIn, Mastodon, Blue Sky, where you might want to put the content there as a placeholder. And then if you suddenly see, oh, there's a person or a group of people that I need to engage with, I can do it. Because if you're not there, you just can't start engaging. So you need to be prepared for that, even if you then decide, I'm going to limit my resource allocation based on where I think the engagement is strongest. Carlos, I want to come back to you with one question on the ranking. If I'm an influencer, okay, and I was very high in the ranking, I dropped many places. What's the thing I should do to go back up again?
As you know, when it's public, there are some KPIs that are important, like the number of followers, the density of followers in Brussels, the engagement the retweets per tweet. But there is one very important that actually did make a difference this year, because we have seen people that were very, very high and dropped, and was mainly because the number of mentions from the MEPs or commissioners to these influencers. So I would say that this is, let's say, the key point of getting higher in the ranking, like get to engage with these very high profile people.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And of course, as you said, it's part of our methodology. And, this is a choice we've made to say, okay, we're going to look at these specific criteria. And of course, those can be discussed. But it's interesting to say to people, look, if you want to make a difference to policy, you need to be engaged with the policymakers. So make sure that that's part of your strategy. And, you're more likely to get that traction. I want to get back to you, Jesus, and then Marcela with one question. What was the highlight of the event for you? What did you most enjoy? And you can be honest. It can be the food, as our very good friend Sarah Wheaton from Politico said, there was better food and less booze. Well, Sarah, we didn't tell you the secret code that you could use to get unlimited free drinks, but next time, come to me. I will tell you, and you can drink to your heart's content.
Responsibly.
Responsibly, of course. To your heart's content, responsibly. Yes. Jesus, your highlight.
Yeah, well, the food was very good. That's true. For me, actually, there was the part that I like. Well, obviously, the different panels, as we have been discussing already a lot. The one about innovations and new horizons was for me interesting, because it's one of the elements more in the creative side that always touch me. So I think that the comments from Maria and Oda were interesting. But for me also, I wanted to highlight the fact that we had in one side of the, actually was big part of the venue where we were having a space for innovation elements, or spaces for people to test and to try. And I like to see that there were many people coming to there, not only for the AI, also for interacting with the robot. We had a Pepper robot there, and also a space for people to see on VR, VR exhibition of artwork done with AI. That was interesting. So the new technology, like you were saying, also using AI in the visuals of the whole event and all that. So introducing new techniques and all that on the event and making it part of it, for me was an interesting part. Always, because I like to experiment. So yeah.
Marcela, what was your highlight? And Carlos, I'll ask you the same thing.
Jesus, you stole my highlight. No, but I think for me, everything was a highlight. But I can go on this for so long. But what was really touching was that I was able to see and witness with my own eyes all of the hard work, that the whole team put in the last months to make this event, on the scale that it was, and seeing how everything went so smoothly, everyone having a great time, the great panel discussions that we had, the interaction with the innovation area, our amazing art director, Anto, he was there generating all of these AI created portraits, Pepper, the party. I cannot pick one, so I'm just giving a quick overview, but it was really, I think, one of the best events that I had the pleasure in organizing together with the whole team.
I agree. So, Carlos, what was your highlight?
This is the highlight. I mean, just hearing Marcela saying that everything was amazing. Well, for me, it's difficult also to choose. But maybe, seeing all the people that we usually engage with on digital, but in flesh and bone. Well, in the flesh. This was a great thing to have, and well, it was amazing to be there.
Yeah, I think bringing everybody together and essentially celebrating the work we do together I think that was really interesting. What I really liked about the meeting of the network was that we felt a very strong connection between people, that people, really enjoyed being together. And, there's often the discussion about whether a remote team can have a culture and can have shared values. And I think what we see is that, we meet a couple of times a year, and of course people meet in smaller groups, but the culture is really strong. The community is incredibly bonded. And I think that's quite interesting, quite surprising. And, a lot of people are saying that they need to bring people and force them into a room for that to happen. And I think we've demonstrated that that's absolutely not true. Now, let's quickly go to our recommendations. Carlos, let's start with you. You have a book recommendation. Tell us the title in English, preferably.
Yes, I wrote a book a few months ago. It was launched. And what if I ask you to bury me? In Spanish,
Okay.
sounds way better.
Well, we have it written in Spanish there, so you can tell us the Spanish title.
Yes. Y si te pido que me entierres is the title of the book.
Okay.
And it's a short story book, but the great thing about the book, one of the great things about the book, is that it's fully recycled. It's made out of algae. It doesn't have any glue, and it has seeds in the cover. So the point is that once you read it, you bury it. And chamomile will arise from the ground.
Well, that's a fun. And sorry, and what's it
That's
about?
amazing.
What's it about? What's the book about?
It's short stories. I won't say that they are connected because you will need to read it to know that, but they are short stories that have everything is connected, even the fact that you need to bury the book. So.
Okay. And can we buy it on Amazon, or where can we find it?
No on Amazon, but several bookshops in Spain. There is a website.
Okay.
isitepidokemintierres.com.
Okay, so maybe we'll share them in the comments. That sounds fascinating. Love the idea of burying the book. Thank you, Carlos. Jesus, your recommendations?
Yeah, so I will come with two. Okay, if you permit me. One I just improvised, but is the fact that the event is still there online. So if you didn't watch it, please go. Okay, so that's my first recommendation. Second is because during the event, and also yesterday I was with Antonin, our art director, creative director, talking about innovations and all that. And I've been lately testing a lot of 3D modeling, also in virtual space. So for example, Masterpiece X, which is a really cool application that is now online for VR glasses. They provided me with a beta version where I can myself import and export materials. So thank you for that, Franco, from Masterpiece X. But the one I wanted to talk today is another application which is called Nomad Sculpt. And actually, this is an app for iPad. So even for those people who are not so much in sculpting, it's really cool because you can yourself use, if you have an iPad and all that, you can already start using the pen and the fingers to sculpt directly in the space. So it's a bit like you have the feeling of beam modeling. Okay, obviously Adobe Substance and all that has this kind of approach also in the 3D environment and all that. That one is really cool one, but this one is really nice. It's very user friendly, quick to do things, and then afterwards you can export it to many places. So I don't know, something to test because it's quite nice. So,
I'll have to try. Thank you so much. Marcela, your recommendation.
Well, as we're on the topic of our special edition for EU Influencer, I have to recommend everyone to check out our latest overview article with the event key highlights, as well as recommendations on how you can adapt in these challenging times and stay one step ahead. So make sure to go on our website or check our social media for the article and let us know if you have any questions or other suggestions.
Fantastic. And we're going to continue to publish around that. My recommendation actually is an interview between Walter Isaacson and Lex Friedman, because Walter Isaacson just published the biography of Elon Musk after spending 2 years shadowing Elon Musk during the Twitter purchase, during a number of things. But there he talks about how he approaches biographies in general. Fascinating discussion. And of course, there's the book. I haven't read it yet. It sounds incredibly interesting, especially now that things are happening. So it's not a historical look back. It's kind of like telling us exactly what happened now. It is kind of disturbing, especially Elon Musk's demon mode. I think it's going to create, unfortunately, a generation of pretty twisted entrepreneurs if they follow that as a model, because I think he is a genius, but he clearly has a broken and disturbed side to him. And I get the feeling that a lot of people will take away those lessons from the book, which, will lead to interesting consequences. Now, that is all we have time for. Carlos, thank you for joining us. Marcela, thank you for all your hard work and being on the show. Jesus, as always, well done with the production and streaming and everything. Have a fantastic weekend. See you online. And until next Friday, have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.